Hi, I'm Nadine. I'm going to show you how to proof your yeast in order to make your blue ribbon flour pizza crust. You're going to need a teaspoon of sugar and you're going to add it to a small bowl. And you're going to take the yeast packet that you got in your mix and you're going to add it right in here. I'm using a jar of yeast because I go through a lot of yeast. So I'll put the equivalent that what you would be putting in right into your bowl. So you've got some sugar and yeast in here, and you're going to take 3/4 of a cup of warm water. You want it to be warm, not hot, because hot water will kill your yeast. Cold water, and it won't do anything. It wants to be nice and tepid, lukewarm. So you're going to add 3/4 of a cup of water right into your bowl, and then you're going to mix it up to make sure that all your yeast is mixed. You're going to let this sit for 10 minutes, and it will begin to get foamy and it will be proofing, and that's how you know your yeast is active. We'll be back in 10 minutes to show you what the yeast looks like. Okay, now that our yeast has proofed, it's become a bit foamy. It looks like the head of a root beer almost. It's a bit foamy, about 1/4 of an inch of foam. And we're going to add 2 teaspoons of olive oil directly into the yeast mixture. And I have parchment paper already greased up with some olive oil on it, because when we're done mixing our dough, we're going to put it directly on the parchment paper to let it rise. So for now, you're going to put your mix in a bowl. Give it a couple of shakes here because some of the mixture of the flour tends to settle and you want to get it all mixed in together. Add your yeast mixture to your flour. And then I have a stand mixer, so I'm going to be mixing it with my stand mixer. And it only takes a couple of minutes. You can do this by hand as well if you don't have a stand mixer. See, it's already done mixing with mine. If you don't have a stand mixer, use your parchment paper, put the dough on top of the parchment paper, grab another piece of parchment paper on top of that, and you use your hands to work out the dough. So we're going to get all of the mixture off of the paddle. I'm going to spoon it right onto the paper. Then you're going to cover it with some plastic wrap. And that will let it rise for 10 minutes. And then we'll be back in 10 minutes. Okay, we've let this rise for about 10 minutes. And what you're going to need to do is take a pastry brush and dip it into some olive oil. And we're just going to push it down a little bit. And we're coating the dough with the olive oil at the same time that we're pushing it down so that when we roll it out, it won't stick. I happen to have this great tool. It's a pastry roller. And I'm going to coat it with a little bit of olive oil. If you don't have a pastry roller, you can use a rolling pin. A non-stick one would be better. If you don't have a non-stick roller, you can take another piece of parchment paper, lay it over the top, and start pressing it out with your hands. But when I roll it out, look how easy this is to roll out with one of these neat little tools. And I can just keep working the dough to the sides of the pan, because you do want it a little bit thin in the middle so that the dough will cook nicely and that you'll have a crust. You're going to be moving it all out to the edges. I'm using a 13-inch pie pan, a metal pie pan, that when the dough is cooked will shrink down to a 12-inch pie pan. The dough will shrink a little bit as you're cooking it. You can roll this out to any size you like. You can split the dough in half and make 2 smaller pizzas, or you can split the dough into even smaller pieces and make the kid-size pizzas. You just roll them out like you would a regular pizza and make the crusts. If you're going to make small kids' pizzas, you only par bake them on 425 degrees for about 6 to 7 minutes. These full-size crusts, you're going to want to par bake them for about 10 minutes on 425. So I'm going to just finish rolling this out. Look how nice that's becoming. Already looks like a nice pizza. And I'm going to trim off the edges with my parchment paper for a couple of reasons. Sometimes they tend to burn the sides in the oven. And the other is I put them underneath my pizza so that it won't stick to the pan where I don't have enough. Just like that. Now I also have another bowl here with a little bit of water. I'm going to dip my fingers in the water and I'm going to form the crust, and dipping my fingers in the water will help me not stick to the crust. I'm going to go all the way around and just make the crust big or as small as you want. I like a bit of a crust to mine, so I'm going to go all the way around, pushing out and down. Keep wetting your fingers if you're starting to stick a little bit. You don't want too much liquid on your pie, but enough so that you don't stick to it. Okay, now I've rolled it out pretty thin in the middle. And there's just your basic, very quick pie. I'm going to make it just so it's a little bit smoother. And then I'm going to par bake these for 10 minutes. So we'll put that in the oven, and we'll be back in 10 minutes. So in just a minute, we're going to take the pizza out of the oven. It's been par baking for 10 minutes on 425 degrees. And I just wanted to show you what the roller that you could use if you don't have a small pastry roller like this. You can use a non-stick roller such as this, or if you have a wooden roller, like you said, just use the parchment paper on top of your pizza crust and work it out that way. So this is now done. I'll be taking it out of the oven. And as you can see, it's not browned yet. The bottom is just a little bit brown. We've only par baked it so that when you put your sauce and cheese on, it won't get soggy and you'll have a nice form to it. Now what you can do from here is if you're going to be eating it now, just let it cool off for a few minutes. Take it off of the pie sheet, remove the parchment paper and throw it away. You don't want to use the parchment paper again. It's, of course, very hot right now. So hot that I can't even touch it. So I'm going to let that cool. Then you can put your sauce on, whatever toppings you want, your cheese. You're going to bake it at 450 degrees for about another 10 minutes, and then you'll be done. Enjoy.